Hello everyone, I'm Divya. Day 3 of our summit. I hope everyone has gained some valuable insight over the last 2 days. And thank you for joining the session on the use of AI to transform healthcare in Africa. Across Africa, healthcare systems are evolving quickly, and artificial intelligence is emerging as a powerful enabler. From strengthening diagnostics and patient care to optimizing resources, improving efficiency, AI is helping unlock solutions that make healthcare more effective and accessible. So before I introduce our panel, I'd just like to take a time to introduce our moderator, Janak Joshi. He's an entrepreneur, technology leader, and a healthcare innovator with a track record of building next-gen AI and data networks. Janak has held senior leadership roles including SVP, Chief Technology Officer at Life Image, Global Head of Real World Evidence Product Strategy at Deloitte, VP at CSV Caremark. He has successfully raised and exited ventures backed by Tier 1 Capital Ventures and served as an advisor to health systems while also serving as a board member and mentor to future leaders in health and technology. Next, we have Salma Mahmoud, a clinical research professional with extensive site operations experience with multinational phase 1 to 3 clinical trials across the Middle East, North Africa. She has collaborated with pharmaceutical companies, regulatory authorities, and healthcare providers to advance drug development and health economics research. She's a fellow in health technology assessment, passionate about innovation and representation in global health. Salma works at the intersection of research, policy, technology to promote inclusive and evidence-driven healthcare systems. Next, we have Mohamed Okba. He's the head of regulatory and public affairs and HEOR at Otsuka Pharmaceuticals. With extensive experience in pharmaceutical regulations, market access, and health economics, Mohammed has led strategic initiatives across multiple product categories, driving regulatory compliance, market access, while fostering innovation in healthcare solutions. He's also a lecturer in health economics and a thought leader in integrating HTA principles into regulatory strategies. We have Dr. Haytham Elgazzar, Associate Professor at CMRDI, Egypt, and a leading expert in 3D printing and laser processing. His pioneering research in medical implants and personalized drug delivery, combined with extensive R&D, bridges cutting-edge technology with RW applications and is helping shape global healthcare solutions. Lastly, we have Dr. Mbuthia, Healthcare Access Chapter Lead Africa at Roche, and a distinguished leader in medical affairs and global health innovation. With over 15 years of experience driving healthcare access, clinical research, and policy initiatives across Africa, Dr. Mbuthia has spearheaded transformative programs in disease management, patient advocacy, and evidence generation. She is recognized for her visionary leadership, cross-functional collaboration, and mentoring of emerging healthcare leaders. With that, I hand it over to you, Janak, to take it forward from here. Welcome all.
Thank you, and welcome to the distinguished panel. I think this is going to be a really exciting conversation. I see there are close to 1,200 people on the calls globally from representing at least 9 countries. So this is really fantastic to see the level of interest and response here. Africa as a subcontinent has been one of the most important and much debated in the RWE context when we think about drug development within pharma, biotech, med devices, and healthcare delivery. Not just because of the size and the diversity, but because of the sheer talent that has been untapped over many, many years. And when most people think Africa, we only think about certain countries and certain kind of capital economies. But we would love to get a perspective from all of you to kind of understand how the continent is shaping up. What are the perspectives and learnings from the things that you have seen within your particular region, and what are some of the opportunities going forward? So with that, one of the biggest questions we had was the question around infrastructure, which is there is a dichotomy between the availability of internet connectivity within certain countries and the speed and the connectivity essentially dictating how fast you can deploy software using AI, or how fast you can do digital interpretation of images, or how fast you can process digital pathology connected to next generation devices. So my question, we can kick it off at Salma, if you don't mind. It would be fantastic to provide some context around what are some of the digital divides, and where do you see the opportunity should investments in digital connectivity be improved?
Well, Janak, thank you for the introduction. I would like to say that without reliable electricity and broadband remain critically deficient in many areas, particularly in the rural zones. Some countries in Africa have electrification rates below 20%. So I think that will be a very promising opportunity if we applied the solar system as a cost-effective, scalable solution where investment will actually return empowering digital health tool. Yet adoption is limited by finance, maintenance, and alignment issues. We currently, in my role as an evidence coordinator, I work directly with hospitals. So the issue of connectivity and internet connectivity is actually making us going very slow in terms of progress in radiology analysis and in implementation of AI and digital solutions. So infrastructure gaps and energy challenges remain still a very like bottleneck in the development of digital health in Africa.
Okay. And Ida, from your perspective, given where you're sitting, what are some of the challenges you're observing, and how do you think about challenges converting to opportunities moving forward?
Much, and as you've highlighted, we sit at interesting perspective as Africa because we carry 25% of the global disease burden, but at the same time, we only have 1% of the global healthcare budget and 3% of the global workforce. So for me, there are a number of challenges with regards to how we can scale up AI, particularly in infrastructure, as has been mentioned. I think one of the things we can do is look at the opportunities that exist. So I see that we have the opportunity to optimize hardware that exists, where we have AI software and devices that are energy efficient. Let's start with what we have, and those that can withstand power outages. So the benefit of this is that the solutions can be deployed at primary healthcare level. And we know in Africa, about 80% of people seek care at primary healthcare facilities. And we've begun to see an increase with regard to the traction of these technologies that are being deployed. I'd like to give an example of Kenya, where we have the Ministry of Health actively leveraging what we know as the digital superhighway. And this is being done to integrate AI and to transform healthcare and access to healthcare. With regards to how we use what can work easily, even at primary healthcare and community level, we've seen that the digital superhighway has extended to the grassroots level. So here we have the electronic community health information system, where community health promoters and workers are using mobile phones so as to collect data. And what this has done is that it has replaced slow and error-prone handwritten records. So certainly the opportunities exist to look at what we have and what can work within the Africa ecosystem and leverage that to continue to advance, even as we sort out the infrastructure challenges.
Okay, that's really helpful. Mohamed, any thoughts from your end about how we think through this over the next 2-3 years? What would be the infrastructure roadmap should look like versus where it's today?
Thank you so much for this event. I hope that will be useful for all audience. If you talk about infrastructure and its challenges and the opportunities generated from these challenges, I think policymakers and the health stakeholders should encourage the investors to invest in like these infrastructures in electricity and in IT solutions and to raise the quality of internet connections. This is the first thing, encouraging the investor. And the second one, we have to localize the AI solutions, which is coming from abroad and not matching with our facilities and our qualifications of electricity and internet connections. We have to localize like these AI tools and solutions to be easily used by our systems. This is the second one. And the third one, we have to invest in training people how to best allocate our local resources in our region, because we have scarce resources in everything, and especially in the health sector. So these 3 points we should focus on from my experience and my exposure in our country and one of the biggest African countries in Egypt.
Thank you. Haytham, over to you. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think investment in such kind of application is very expensive. So it's some kind of priority for decision maker in Egypt. So they know, well, it's very important topic, and they are need to investment in such kind of technology. But the problem is priority and the money. If the money is available, I have certain priority, I have to focus on it. So what we do currently in Egypt, especially for R&D, we focus on certain kind of application for using some kind of software or machine or whatever facilities to training talent people or young engineer for state-of-the-art technology. Let's say we prepare a young generation to take the lead in within 10 years. Once we have a money and we have facilities and the surrounding environment is good for implement such kind of technology, we already have the workforce, they can implement it directly. That is the plan. I think the government focus on it currently because it didn't cost any big amount of money. We just we provide you some software, we provide you some high-tech machines, so you can train as much as you can from young engineers, from private companies engineers. Once you are ready, you have already your workforce staff to implement this technology. Currently, for R&D, we are a little bit, let's say we have 60-70% of what we need to go for this direction. We have software, we have machines, we have high connectivity. So we apply some case study, but still in very narrow area. We can't extend for some certain reasons. So, but mainly it's all about money. So if you have a money, most of problem would be solved directly. So
okay, fair enough. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And, you know, to add some additional thoughts to this, you know, all the startups and all the large Fortune 50 companies, both representing devices as well as software companies that we use in epidemiology, clinical research, healthcare delivery systems that are used by radiologists, primary care physicians, etc. There has been a lot of conversation to optimize the software and the hardware to calibrate with low bandwidth infrastructure, because the current softwares that are being developed, the assumption always is, well, you'll always have the highest bandwidth possible, but then you show up in India, then you show up in Sri Lanka, then you show up in parts of Africa, then you show up in parts of Middle East, and then that same software does not work because of the infrastructure. So I think there needs to be a foundational shift to understand how we take the current capabilities and the current assets that are being developed either in Europe or anywhere else to recalibrate to low bandwidth. So no, this is the most important topic. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Now, when we think about transforming healthcare in Africa, you know, and in context with RWE, which is the focus of the conference, data collection has always been at the top of everybody's mind. whether it's CROs or hospital systems or clinical researchers, etc. The question is in two parts. Number one is, what is the ability for hospital systems or for CROs, clinical research organizations, to go into some of these clinics, whether community or large academic medical centers, to collect the data in a meaningful way? Is there an ability to go look at a retrospective view into existing databases to develop a cohort or to define a particular protocol? And number one. And number two, the part B of the question is, how aware and willing are the patients, the population, to share that information for clinical research? So, Mohamed, if you don't mind kicking us off on that two-part question, that would be fantastic.
Okay, Janak. If you talk about data access and its challenge in our region, we can talk about several points. The first one about regulatory regulations of how to collect data. Egypt, one of the countries that established data protection law, like Kenya and Nigeria, but the enforcement is still weak. So we have to push for establishing regulatory landscape for that, to collect data with the regulatory framework to be transparent for the patients and the collector himself. This is the first one, and the hospital. The second one, the hospital skeptical about data sharing. So there is a fear, breaches, and the lack of trust should be addressed and handled in this big challenge. These two main points, we have opportunity in that to establish regional framework and anonymization to unlock safe data use. We can say as a conclusion, trust is a currency. Trust is currency, and patients will only support collecting data and using AI of that if they trust how their data is handled. It's about trust of the patients.
Haytham, how about your perspective?
Actually, most of patients I met agree for sharing their data because they are willing to help. So the problem is coming from security reason. To collect right data from hospitals, we need several agreement, which is headache for people who work for research like me. So friendly, we can collect some data, but it's just for 1 to 1,000 patients, not more. But if you look for big projects like that depend on using big data analytic tools, we need to use like millions of data from millions of patients. Here is the problem. We need security agreement. You read different security agreement from different level and take sometimes over 1 year. So actually, for one like me, I switch it to use this technology of AI and big data analytics for industrial application, not for health sector, until the situation is changed in Egypt. You know, doctor maybe agree, patient maybe agree, but the policy maker, the decision maker who can give you final permission doesn't agree because they're afraid from using this data for other purpose and research, or they asking you several questions: who will use this data, when and where. You have to show me every step you made. So it's a lot of obstacles that make it difficult for us to continue. So only medical doctors can go for this kind of agreement for their PhD or master degree. And in this case, they use only few data, 1,000 to 5,000 patient maximum, I think. So again, It's security, not the money, not the trust. It's security from the beginning. If you solve this problem, you can solve any problem.
Okay. Ida?
Thank you so much. So for me, with regard to the ability of CROs to collect data in a meaningful way, I'd say that the ability is there, but it needs to be bolstered. And this would be via collaboration between multiple stakeholders, innovator companies, governments, academic institutions, etc. So there's the role for innovator companies to come in and shape the ecosystem. And I'd like to give the example of what we've been able to do as Roche, specific to East Africa. So here I'm speaking to Kenya and Uganda, where we've seen there's been enrollment in clinical trials based on the efforts that we have made there. So we have been able to play a key role in capacity building and site expansion. And what this has meant is that we've been able to scale up our research and development activities from one site in 2020 during COVID times to more than 10 sites to date. So this is through what we call the Site Alliance, and it's a project that has looked at building the necessary capabilities when it comes to health workforce, also building the necessary infrastructure and expertise specific for conducting high-quality clinical trials in the region. And the good thing about this is that once this expertise is built and once we have the infrastructure in place, then it also means that over time we are better prepared to have more clinical trials, and we are better prepared to have patients support these clinical trials. So we've been able to see impact over time, positive impact in the lives of over 180 patients in East Africa. So the willingness is there, the ability is there, but it has to be bolstered. And this is through collaboration with stakeholders to continue to build on this. But it does play a crucial role when it comes to ensuring that there is equity.
Thank you, Ida. Salma.
Well, data collection is a challenge also for the development of digital health and transformation of healthcare in Africa. But I will also mention the first topic that we start with, infrastructure. There is a lot of spaces in the continent doesn't actually apply the EHRs. There is no electronic health records to begin with. The first clinical trial I have worked on, we relied on paperwork that needed to be entered on another system. So we cannot make use of the actual patient data that is in the hospitals from the usual care. You have to establish a new system and transfer this data with all the risk of data transfer. That's because, like Dr. Mohamed said, the data sharing is an issue. Because of the regulatory, because of the restrictions. For example, you cannot actually take the same patient data from another hospital. Like you need to go through a lot of clearance to get a report from another hospital for the same patient. If the patient transferred the hospital, that might mean that he will be excluded from the registry or the trial, because we can no longer access his data. So data collection is a challenge for this reason. And also there is a part of the digital skills of the physicians themselves. Some African doctors still lack the formal digital health training. So this for the specialists and for the KOLs, they don't directly interfere with the data entry and data collection. And we need their opinions the most to make use of this data, to make studies on these data. So not only the data collection, but also the digital skill.
Thank you. A few perspectives on lessons learned from, countries like US, UK, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, etc., is the mandate had to come at the policy level. It actually came from the government. And I can share the notes after this call if it's helpful. For example, 6 years ago, U.S. signed what we call as the 21st Century Cures Act, which indicated that every hospital and every pharma company has to share data on a patient who's participating in a trial for RWE purposes. And if you don't, you get fined, you're in violation of the law. Because until and unless that happens, if the patient gets transferred or gets seen by a specialist in another facility, then you have to go and talk to that facility leader, the CEO, and go through the security processes. What you explained was exactly what was happening in the US about 20 years ago. And it created so much inefficiencies and so much wasted of money and time and enrollment challenges that finally the FDA and the policymakers indicated saying, this is how we're going to run it. I was, in fact, part of that policymaking process, so happy to share notes, as I said. And the other thing I would say is that when that policy got passed, it actually created a whole secondary market in data sharing with all the data brokers. So the data brokerage industry really thrived over the last 10, 15 years with many, many companies. I mean, currently, if you look at a company called Datavant is a company, if you go to the website, their ecosystem has 600 plus data brokers from all over the world. Most of them are concentrated in Europe, Canada, and US. But that industry of 600 vendors did not really exist 15 years ago. This is all new. So the policy actually improved the economic outlook and the amount of investments from investors and the intent both from the patients, the providers, the clinical researchers, and pharma companies to aggregate all that. And also what that landed up doing is that it attracted tremendous amount of foreign direct investment from pharma companies to establish offices in areas such as Palo Alto, like Silicon Valley and Boston, which are the two big hubs of software innovation, and Boston particularly, which is big in pharma and biotech. So it is a very important topic for how you collect the data, the availability of data, and how you think about data brokerage as a business mandated at the policy layer. And there are also lessons to be learned in this topic from our friends at UAE. I've been advising the Dubai Health Authority, Malafi, Mubadala, if you know these names, for how do you manage and create like a consent management framework that is both direct from patient and multi-institutional. And how do you connect all the Emirates across UAE, or even if the patient kind of comes from Europe, how do you do the data sharing within the GDPR laws? So those are real, those frameworks exist. There's no need to reinvent the wheel and discover anything. There are so many good lessons over the years that have been happening. So while we are on the topic of data, obviously one of the most important questions that comes is Africa is really diverse. In fact, it has one of the widest diversities on this planet. So just because you implement something in Nairobi, Kenya, does not mean it might even work, in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, or in South Africa, or in Egypt, etc. So my question is, how do you guys in your role think about diversity today, and how do you think that diversity can potentially get normalized in clinical trial recruitment in context with RWE? Because I have friends in all the way from Tunisia to South Africa to Joburg, and they were sharing is that you could literally have a population with more than 20 different race and ethnicities within the geographic region. So how do you accommodate for that, and how do you guys think through diversity? Would love for you to share it with the audience. So Salma, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Well, like you said, Africa is very diverse. Egypt, as a big country in Africa, is very diverse in terms of ethnicity, genetics, language, culture, and background and disease burden. But there is certainly still a lack in trust in participating in studies, in clinical trials. There is suspicion about being a study participant. So they don't trust, I mean, on the patient level, they don't trust the process being in a clinical trial and being taken care of. But I think education will definitely increase the participation in clinical trial on the patient level and also on the physician level, because a physician remains the point of contact between study sponsors or pharma companies and the patients. So physician recommendation and nurse recommendation remain the main recruitment pathway in clinical trials in Egypt and in Africa. But regarding the digital tools, like contribution to such participation and inclusion, I believe the regulation still lacks in this area, in the use of social media ads for clinical trials participation and for registry participations. The consent, the informed consent process, the e-consent will make a very good difference in the inclusion of clinical trials if it was applied. So these are all opportunities that need to be tackled on a policy level, like you said, but the opportunity is there.
Fantastic. Ida?
The comments that have been made really resonate with me. And I'd just like to add on that for diversity to get normalized, I think one of the things, number one, is to speak to the awareness on the importance of diversity through this conversation and multiple other conversations, because of course it does have an impact on treatment and clinical decision making. And this should be done with multiple stakeholders on the continent and off the continent, just to raise their awareness on the importance of this diversity. But beyond speaking to it, it's important that sites in Africa, healthcare facilities, hospitals, and others move beyond just the awareness and become site ready, if I would say site ready, to be able to take part in clinical trials. And there are a number of factors that, if worked on, would help in many of these sites being site ready. So, for example, training and readiness with regards to the capabilities of healthcare workers to take part in clinical trials, identifying and preparing the patients to take part in clinical trials as some of the examples. I would also like to speak to advocacy with governments, healthcare institutions, and relevant bodies, especially the approval bodies, when it comes to getting the necessary approvals and timelines to be part of clinical trials. It's usually quite a tight process, and timelines are usually looked into. And when you look at some of the times it takes to get regulatory approval to be part of trials and to be able to enroll a patient, it does take a significant long time in Africa. So being able to advocate with bodies that are responsible for these approvals to be able to support clinical trials is just some of the ways in which we can get diversity normalized in clinical trials.
Thank you. Haytham?
Yeah, I think we have to set first classification and some priorities to measure. I need at the end to measure, and based on this measurement, I have to set the priority. I think hence I can support the decision maker to provide wide image about the current state, the priority. So if we need to investment or change some rules or change some law, they can understand what we think. So first, I think classification and measurement. It's not clear in Egypt actually. I don't know about other countries. So if I set correct measurements, correct priorities and classification, I can then go forward. But on the other hand, it's good experience for people work for research to go through different kind of diseases. And that's the reason most of Egyptian doctors travel abroad and they get job abroad, especially in Europe and the UK, because they have very nice experience with different kind of diseases. So it is some kind of good thing in Egypt.
Thank you. Mohamed?
I can relate to my to words said by my colleagues Salma and all of my colleagues. The diversity in Africa, it's a very challenge, and it's an opportunity for stakeholders in Africa. Despite Africa consists of 70% of all the population, and has from 20 to 25% of disease burden, and we have consensus that Africa has rare diseases isn't exist in any of the world. In spite of that, we still only represent about 1.1% of global trials. It's a very big challenge, and it's a big question. We can talk about the solutions. I can say, because I am from a regulatory background and also health economics background, we can say you can start from top to down, from the policymaker and from regulatory, to establish all regulatory framework that govern this the environment of encouraging all stakeholders, and especially the private companies, and to share in the clinical trials of the rare diseases, especially rare diseases of Africa. By the way, Egypt has achieved several milestones in that. If you know, Egyptian Drug Authority now a member in WHO and a member in ICH, and has achieved the level 3 maturity level, and this authority is moving forward to be a reputable authority in the world, and especially in the African region. And I think the African countries now has made several cooperation and collaborative efforts with the Egyptian Drug Authority. One of them was to invest and to establish the environment and the ecosystem for clinical trials to encourage and incentivize companies to address this big challenge of Africa about the diversity of clinical trial and the low representation of this continent in the clinical trial as a global.
No, that's a fair statement. And my observations working in Middle East and Africa has also been that the tooling and the availability of the tooling does not even match the policy. So there are certain countries and regions who would say that, yes, we do need to capture diversity information, but then the medical record system or the CRO software is unable to even capture that. They would have two small fields called race and ethnicity with no correlation to geography, rare disease occurrence, disease burdens, none of that. So the ability to correlate epidemiology or things such as incidence and prevalence rates with race and ethnicity is a huge challenge, because the software tools itself are unable to capture that. Because again, understand that these software tools were developed in countries with very homogeneous populations. I mean, Philips is from Netherlands, in Utrecht. I mean, diversity is, it's not as heterogeneous. So those are some of the big observations on the tooling side that also might need to go in addition to policy. My last couple of concluding questions, and it would be really helpful for the audience, would be, as you look ahead in your individual roadmaps over the next 3 to 4 years, where do you see the biggest opportunities to kind of transform? And transformation could be more about more patient engagement and patient-reported data to infrastructure, to setting up manufacturing sites to address the potential utilization for drugs for addressing the rare diseases, et cetera. But would love to get your perspective and give the audience to say, where is the opportunity for investment? Where is the opportunity for education, for engagement? Have you, Mohamed, if you don't mind kicking us off on this question?
Okay, sure, Jack. Really, we have several opportunities to invest into addressing these challenges and the big obstacles of Africa. The first one we can say about the national strategies, like what has been established in Egypt, Egypt Digital 2030, which encouraging and pushing to convert and to make all electronic health records, to increase this, moving all records to be electronic. This is the first one, and like what happened in Rwanda and Mauritius and Tunisia, they all have established early AI strategies, and also for AI and the data protection, the Continental AI framework, which have been signed in Malabo Convention. This is the first one about the national strategies to be established. The second one, ethics and the trust, should be also regulated and governed by policy maker. Also local, the third pillar, the local innovation and the partnership should be like a public and the public-private partnership, encouraging the private sector to be with the public sector, to investing in, as we said before, in infrastructure like reliable electricity, solutions to solve this big challenge like solar energy, investing in that, and also investing in IT infrastructure for our region. Also, it's a very important opportunity to invest in our talent, to educate and to train our health workers and the young generations, who is highly interested in technology and like that. And I think in Egypt we have now bachelor in for artificial intelligence, and I think in some African countries. These pillars I think are the most important solutions and opportunities we can take from the challenges we were talking about in this session.
Fair enough. Thank you. Haytham?
Yes, I think the most important is software. Shortage, very big shortage in software developers, especially for medical applications. And also the machine itself, it's very, very expensive. Most of all machine in Egypt, it's imported from outside. So we don't manufacture any kind of machine here. So it's big investment. So I think it's big opportunity to big company to invest in Egypt for make Egypt as like center for manufacturing high expensive equipment or machine for medical application or health sector. And we are lucky in Egypt is the middle of the world, so they can make factory here and buy it everywhere with very low price. And I think education, number 3. We have to investment in education. We have a talent already I worked since 10 years ago for different kind of application related to manufacturing of prostheses or medical implants. So we have very good engineers, and we have some good machines actually. But at the end, we don't manufacture it. Software, we don't have it. We bought it from abroad. It's very, very expensive. We need to get some focus on reducing the cost of these tools. So I think software number one, education number two, and then manufacturing of equipment, large equipment.
Thank you. Ida?
Thank you.
Thank you. I also resonate with the remarks that have been made by my fellow panelists. For me, the way I look at it is that we need to shift from looking just at the technology and begin to address the whole ecosystem and have an ecosystem perspective. So whether we are speaking to infrastructure, governance, healthcare workers, concurrently, because they all play a crucial role. There's not one which is better than the other. So the successful integration of AI in healthcare will require a lot of collaboration. And nowadays it's said collaboration is the new innovation. So it's not just about the software or the hardware, but the whole ecosystem to enable access to AI technology in healthcare. So I'd like to call out key stakeholders who need to be at the fore of this. Definitely the governments and the different ministries, because they need to support to create and have a supportive regulatory environment that encourages innovation on one hand, but on the other hand also ensuring that there's data privacy and security. And then they also have a crucial role to play from a policy perspective when we think of countries having national digital health strategies. I'd also like to call out local researchers and startups because they play a crucial role. They look into how you invest in local innovation amidst all these challenges, because the most impactful solutions will come from those who understand the unique challenges on the ground. And I believe that as Africa, we are also well positioned to come up and innovate unique solutions that we can use to support healthcare. And then there's also the role that technology providers also play in different companies to design and also implement solutions and technologies that speak to the needs in the continent. But it all starts from collaboration and every stakeholder playing their role and us looking at the environment or the ecosystem broadly.
Thank you. And Salma, lastly, with you.
I believe working on developing a resilient infrastructure, power, last mile connectivity, secure cloud is the main point to start with no AI without reliable power and the connectivity and secure hosting for patient health data. Another point is working on the clinician digital skills and AI training because we need to trust these physicians with developing or maintenance of data collection, accurate data collection, which is Egypt is currently doing sponsor fellowship for clinician data trainings. And finally, working on the policies of data sharing, data access, for CROs, for third-party vendors, for drug development agencies, will make the most impact for transformation of healthcare in Africa.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. We have investors, policymakers, VCs, entrepreneurs, and stakeholders from pharma, hospital systems on this call. I can see the demographics. I recognize many names on the list. So this is a very, very important discussion that impacts a variety of different areas, from investment to healthcare transformation ultimately. But thank you so much. Thanks to the panel. Divya, if you don't mind wrapping us up, that would be fantastic. But again, this was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Janak. Thank you to all our panelists for such an insightful session. So what we heard is for RWD to be truly transforming healthcare in Africa, we must focus on secure, collaborative, transparent data collection with stronger enforcement of existing frameworks, deeper patient engagement, and trusted partnership, so that we can shape a healthier future. So thank you once again for joining the session. We'll start with the next session shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.